I had been seeing so many doctors throughout my adolescence and then also in my mid-20s as I was trying to figure things out with my health. And it was increasingly so frustrating because I just kept getting advice of like, get more rest or get more fiber or, hey, you're healthy, don't worry about it.
So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what has your journey in the Clear Skin Solution been like?
The biggest impact, again, was going through.
So January is always the time when everybody gets that refresh. They hit the reset button. They're like, new year, new me. I'm going to start working out again. I'm going to work on my skin. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to do all these things. So this is why I thought today's episode was going to be so great for January, because we're bringing together both those worlds. We have actually one of our lovely clients, Elizabeth Fitzpatrick. She's been hanging out with us for well over a year now. You did the Clear Skin Solution. You've been hanging out with me over and beyond Clear. We've been doing lots of functional testing. And, later, probably December, you and I were chatting like, oh my gosh, this would be a great podcast episode, because I knew that I really loved, Elizabeth, your perspective on fitness, because it weaved a lot of mindset in. And this is, I think, something so important, because it's what we do here in the Clear Skin Solution. And in fitness, it's such an important part, because I did a story about this on Instagram a while ago, but women don't have an issue starting a program, right? They can start going to the gym. They can start doing classes. They can start eating better. They can start working on their skin. But what I find is the issue is when they hit a plateau, they're not seeing results fast enough. They have a flare in their skin. Maybe they injure themselves working out, whatever that may be. They think, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. It's not working. I need to change tactics. I need to do a different workout. I need to get different supplements. And then they're all the way back at square one. So they're never able to work their way through in order to get the results, because they're not only in that right mindset, but they don't have the knowledge, because they're not trained professionals. Like Elizabeth is a trained personal trainer. Cris and I are registered holistic nutritionists. They don't have the knowledge of how to properly put things into a sequence. So what needs to go in what order in order to get the results that I want? And when I'm not seeing results, am I doing something wrong? And you as a fitness trainer, Elizabeth, are able to say, no, this is not what we're doing. Like, we're getting those results. We just have to be building on what we're doing. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So Elizabeth, I want to start back with, why did you initially decide to join us in the Clear Skin Solution? Because you touched a little bit on this before with me, is that you had been seeing doctors since you were 10 years old.
Yes, I have. So a little bit about me. I was a competitive gymnast growing up. So I've always been really interested in health and fitness. When I went to college, I knew I wanted to study it. I have a minor in nutrition. I'm a certified nutrition coach. So I have some knowledge here. But I remember when I was, I believe, 10 years old, I started having severe pain in my esophagus. And my parents took me to so many doctors. And long story short, that just cascaded into so many different symptoms throughout the years, through my gut, my nervous system, hormones, a lot of other things that I think, looking back, I now realize that they were all connected. And for a little while, I kind of just thought I had so many different things wrong with me, and I couldn't figure out why, especially given the fact that I have a lot of education around health and fitness, or at least a lot more so than the average person. And so it really felt like I was kind of an imposter wanting to be a personal trainer, but I wasn't able to figure out what was going on with me. And in my mid-20s, it was just getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And then, of course, I come off of birth control, felt like my whole world ended. It really threw me for such a loop. And yes, I had been seeing so many doctors throughout my adolescence and then also in my mid-20s as I was trying to figure things out with my health. And it was increasingly so frustrating because I just kept getting advice of like, get more rest or get more fiber or, hey, you're healthy, don't worry about it. Like, the things that I would hear from these doctors was actually very surprising. And that was when I felt just really, really lost, because I was like, wow, someone in my position, and I have 10 different specialty certifications and training. I have nutrition background. I know so much of this world, and I still couldn't figure out at all what was going on with my body. And so my healing journey was just like little bits at a time, starting to uncover a little bit more of like a holistic approach. And then when I came across your Instagram, I randomly saw your Instagram and I was like, wow, you guys work on healing the gut in relation to acne. I was like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. But I was a little skeptical at first because I had felt so burned by how many times I had tried to ask for help and it just wasn't what I thought. And so the more research I did, I actually started listening to y'all's podcast. So I'm fangirling so hard right now.
Love it.
But in listening to y'all's podcast, I started to realize like, okay, yes, like this is actually the information that I knew I was looking for. It was just, it felt so hard to find, especially because there's so much information out on the internet and it can be so frustrating because it's like, well, this person says eat carbs, this person says don't eat carbs. Like, what do I listen to? And so I just knew that I really resonated in hearing you all speak, and I knew it was something that I had to do.
And Cris, that's something that we hear quite often. Not that they're fangirling. I do love when we get a client on the podcast that is a podcast listener because it's actually so fun and I'm sure it's a full circle moment. But Cris, from that perspective where, so many of our clients have these stories where they've gone the medical route, they've been let down, they've been told how they feel is normal, but they know deep down that something is off.
Yeah, and that shows up in conversations with us where they're like, you are my last option. You are my last hope. You're my last.
No
of
pressure.
course, there's no pressure, no pressure at all, right? However, we take that in stride because we understand that the foundations are probably not there. And I'm, Elizabeth, with your coaching and nutrition and these types of things that you already had in your bucket, how many times did you tell yourself, I should know this. I should be able to do it myself. What's wrong with me? Right? Because that's that cyclical cycle.
Yeah, every day for years. My mid-20s, like when I decided I wanted to be a personal trainer, I was so inspired to get so fit. And this was the time that things started to go downhill for me. I was actually diagnosed with narcolepsy. And so there was a lot of moments where I didn't even know if I was dreaming or if I was awake walking around throughout my day. So that was a big catalyst in some of my health stuff. But I had also at the same time been dealing with, now looking back, what I think was some hormonal things I didn't understand. And my doctor kept switching up my birth control like pretty regularly. I think I tried like 6 different ones. I even had an IUD situation where I had a like blood pressure reaction in the doctor's office. And he was like, oh, my whole body cramped up and like I could not move my hands. I couldn't like unscrunch my toes. It was the weirdest thing. And my doctor was like, oh, this happens sometimes. And that was such an indication for me to be like, I just had the most traumatic thing of my life happen inside your doctor's office. And you just said this happens sometimes. And that was a big moment for me to be like, okay, I just don't want to be on birth control. If that's what birth control does to me, I don't want to be on it. But throughout that time, when I was switching through all of these different birth controls, I gained about 40 pounds. And that was right as I had started a brand new personal training job here in Austin at a very fancy gym. And I just felt like the biggest imposter in the world because I was like, I've never been overweight before. I know I eat healthy. I track my food. I know I work out. I know how to work out. It was so confusing. I just genuinely didn't understand. And I had kind of started to hear, that birth control can sometimes do this, but I kept asking my doctor about it. And he was like, no, that's not true. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And then when that happened, I was like, no, my body is quite literally telling me that I'm not fine doing this. And so I want to come off. But then, of course, coming off was a whole thing in itself as well. So yeah, for years, I felt like there was something wrong with me, that maybe I didn't actually know how to work out, even though I thought I did. And I questioned a lot of things. So absolutely.
Because I think really when it comes down to it, right, is you have that background. You're an expert in fitness. You have nutrition training. And I find that when it comes to acne, and Cris and I talk about this all the time, is that acne nutrition and acne focused, I guess we could say self-healing, is a very nuanced, very multifaceted thing. And it's not the same as, say, sports nutrition, which your background is. And Cris and I, again, we have these conversations and she's always like, sports nutrition and holistic acne nutrition, not the same thing. They're completely different. So it's no wonder that you weren't able to kind of crack through that code because you didn't have that training when it comes to acne, right? Like Cris, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, it is like beyond true. And even if somebody doesn't have it, they have done enough research at this point because we have social. Never have we been so advanced in social media to collect information. So what we see the highest right now is overwhelm. And I'm going to use this word, anxious-like behaviors, right? Do you know how many acne clients come in with self-diagnosed anxiety? And then when they learn that, oh my gosh, There's a way around this. There's a mindset component. There's the application of taking the information, putting it aside, and following a plan that's just becomes a little bit different, right? I'll tell you, do I coach myself? No. Do I coach Katie? Yes. Does Katie coach Katie? She tries, and then Cris intervenes.
Cris gets very upset when I coach myself. She's like, what did we talk about?
Yeah, and that's what did we talk about, right? Because here's the thing, we know all the things. It's that big component of compassion that goes out the window and judgment seeps in pretty quickly. So whether we're 40 pounds going to an elite gym and we're supposed to be performing a job, that doesn't take away your knowledge. It takes away your confidence. So then your knowledge just feels like bottom of the barrel. Fair?
100%. I also realized that it's just so much more complicated than, hey, just eat clean. Like, for instance, I found out that I have the MTHFR gene mutation. So that makes things more complex. And then through doing the actual testing that y'all provided, I did a candida detox. And that to me was the craziest, coolest, also weirdest experience that I went through because it was a bit intense.
And those are probably the kindest words we've ever heard.
Kindest words I've heard about a candida protocol. Thank you for that.
I nerd out about this because I try to look at it through the lens that y'all do. And I think the body is so fascinating. And so when I tried to ask questions about what was going on in my body, that was the thing. I was just so curious about, like, deep down on like the cellular level, what is happening right now as I'm going through this. And that just absolutely fascinated me. And it was challenging to go through, but I think I was just so motivated and driven by the curiosity of, oh, wow, I've probably been dealing with these things back since I was 10 when I initially started having symptoms, and I just had no idea. And knowing, especially with the MTHFR, I think that I was probably eating foods as a child that I had no idea that I should have not have been eating. And I'm sure that that contributed to things. And so, yeah, very interesting.
I'm excited because we're going to do a crossover into fitness with Elizabeth later in the episode. Like, we're kind of like bringing the two worlds together. And the reason why, again, Elizabeth and I were talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be a great podcast episode because the journeys are so similar between acne and weight loss. Because Elizabeth, something you talk a lot about in your program is this isn't an overnight thing, right? Like, you're not going to all of a sudden get results by the weekend. And the same thing with acne is when we have clients come in, they are like, yeah, I get it. I know this is going to be a journey. I know this is going to be a journey. And then I find they get to like month 3 and they have a flare, they plateau, and they're like, this isn't working. I don't know what's happening. And we're like, hey, remember when we started? And we said this wasn't going to be just a few month thing. So I love, Elizabeth, when you came into the program, you had that mindset of, okay, this is not going to be a quick journey. I have been dealing with this since I was 10 years old. So that's almost 2 decades I've been dealing with this. This isn't going to be a 3 or 4 month journey for me. And you've really made that clear because you've committed to this journey and you've been hanging out with us for like over a year now. And you've worked so hard and made so many gains. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what has your journey in the Clear Skin Solution been like? What have been, those changes you've seen, the non-skin wins, the skin shifts, or even some obstacles you've overcome? Because we know this is not a linear journey. This isn't going to be like, I take these supplements and everything gets better. It's an up and down at times.
Yes, 100%. I think the biggest impact, again, was going through the candida detox, and my skin went insane. It was the worst I've ever seen it. But I also understood that the more that my skin was having that reaction, it was an indication to me of what had been going on my insides for so long. And that was so shocking to me. And that's really what was driving me to want to be even more on top of it, just with nutrition and everything. And so that was a bit of a battle, but at the same time as that was going on, that was the most clear, the most grounded that I've ever felt. You asked earlier, like, how many people come in with self-diagnosed anxiety. I think I might have been the most anxious person in the world coming into this. And so the amount of which my anxiety has come down, I genuinely didn't even think was possible. And I didn't realize how much of that was coming from my gut. And then, of course, nervous system, which I know that, of course, our gut and nervous system are so aligned. And so the more you work on your gut, your nervous system gets healed, and also vice versa. And so I was also trying to make sure that I was taking really good care of my nervous system during this time and educate myself so much about nervous system so that I could do both. So within the last year and a half, I mean, this is probably the best I've ever felt in my entire life. I feel as if my body is like thawing, if that makes sense. And I don't know if what I'm about to say sounds crazy, but I swear my hearing is different. Like colors look more vibrant. I feel like my eyes are more open and clear. I just feel like my senses are coming back online. So much so that I didn't even realize that they were offline as much as they were. But the more I think about that, that really makes sense because if my whole body is just softening as it relaxes, I think my fascia is rehydrating and my gut is happier. It makes sense that all of a sudden I'm not just, on edge or in fight or flight all the time. And I can really sit back and be a bit more calm and take in everything. My boyfriend even tells me all the time, he's like, wow, your eyes are just so open now. Like he sees such a big difference in me and my posture. It has improved so much. And so, yeah, I think it's so important to do both of those things at the same time and, hit it from every angle with nervous system and gut and then exercise and all of that and sleep, all of the things. So I genuinely never thought this was a place that I could be in. And it's giving me such hope because I'm 30 years old and my anxiety was getting to a point to where it was getting pretty crippling. And I was just so worried because it was just getting worse and worse. And I just thought, oh, I guess anxiety just gets worse as you get older. And now looking back, I'm like, oh no, it was just my insides were asking for help. And I didn't have the specific knowledge that I needed on my own in order to help them out. And so now that I have, it's starting to go away. And that to me is just, I mean, I couldn't say thank you enough to you all for helping that with me.
And also thank you to yourself because Cris, you want to know what something really cool that Elizabeth has been doing is I love when clients really take on that nervous system component. And Elizabeth does this a lot in her work as a fitness trainer. I'm actually starting her fitness program this week. And I was going through the modules. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all the stuff Cris and I love. And Cris, she's actually been doing a lot of somatic work. So she's been doing a lot of somatic releases. She's really been working on regulating her nervous system. And Cris, can you just talk about a little bit about how important that is on a client journey when they fully accept that part of the healing journey?
It's 100% of the self-healing journey. If you don't have the mindset or the transition or the openness or I call it perspective, and that change is a must, then the stagnancy is going to stay there, right? I always say the difference between mindset, like embracing it, it's not comfortable. I'm sure Elizabeth can tell us it's not comfortable, but the difference between it is going, walking your dog in an ice storm versus walking it on a beautiful spring morning, right? The terrain changes, the climate, the cold, the hurt, the doubt, the dread, like that is. So mindset is very much like the terrain. If I go and put you in the jungle, are you going to be happy? Probably not if you didn't grow up there, right?
Cris, there's too many spiders and snakes. Don't do that to me.
Oh yeah, Katie can't even tent. So,
No.
I mean, at the end of the day, if the mindset, and when I say 100%, that doesn't mean that there's not room for the other things, but Elizabeth hit it, is food is a component. It is not the component. And people still come into the Clear Skin Solution thinking, I changed all my foods. Why isn't this happening? Because it's a component, right? This is why we do the HMA. This is why we look at the minerals, because that component is what else is blocked. And I will tell you, I mean, I sauna. That is my
Loves
zen.
it.
And I will tell you, if my body craves it. Somatic work, it is the same thing. Your body will crave it because it's resonating with it. And when I get into the sauna, this is a TMI, but obviously not.
We love TMI, Cris. This is the name of the game for us.
If I feel it and I ignore it, when I get into the sauna and I put my towel and I shower and I leave the bathroom, Steve or the kids will be like, what is up here that's dying? It's my towel. It's the toxins because they build up. I don't have acne, but I have a thyroid. I have a sluggish, sweating, mindset, whatever it is. And I sauna'd yesterday. the towel. So my towel scent is my indicator of how toxic I am. Isn't that kind of cool?
Your towel scent.
It was fine, everybody. It was fine. Nobody was
We're good.
calling in 911 for forensics to come in or anything. But that's the difference. It's the body will tell you what it wants. It craves it. Just like when you first start or you're transitioning, your body will crave sugar because the microbes, the pathogens, they feed off of that.
Mm-hmm.
You ever notice when cancer patients, one of their main things is their sweets? They don't have a stomach for many things, but they want and tolerate, crave, and demand sweets
Mm-hmm.
because it's a feeder. So that's kind of what I want to just explore with everybody is it's not so much that, again, it's, one of the things you said earlier is you did so much hard work. I don't even love that because hard is just that indication that it was because people think, oh, it's just so hard. Well, we all know I like the word new, but it's not supposed to be comfortable because comfortable got you here. And that's the mindset that we need to go into. So you can be as educated as you want. You cannot coach yourself, I promise you. It is not a thing. I mean, I can probably up to about 45% because I can delineate myself but for my kids, I've just said, enough's enough. I'm not doing it. I'm gonna absorb the parent role.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that whole thing that's the schematic of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That's the schematic of I don't need to push harder, be better, do more. It's where am I at right this second? What do I need? Am I listening? Who can help me? That's mindset.
It is. And it's that coaching component. I always say, look at the best athletes in the world. They all have coaches. Simone Biles, your Serena Williams, like the Tom Brady's, all of
Katie
these
Stewart.
I am not an athlete. Let's just unless Pilates reformer is considered an athletics.
Well, as of this week, you're technically going to be an athlete.
I am. Well, I was a cheerleader and I did dance, so I do have that background. But all of the best athletes in the world, they all have coaches. They all, even though they're the best, the top of their game, you cannot coach yourself because you need somebody to have that outside view that is saying, hey, this is what you need to do. Hey, this is what we need to shift. And Elizabeth, you being a coach yourself, you really understood from that perspective, like, hey, if I want to get the gains with my skin that I want, I need somebody that can hold me accountable, that can give me the right order in which I need to do things in order to get the goals that I want.
Yes, 100%. I do really well with if I'm able to ask someone questions and just if I know that someone has the resources that I need and I feel pretty motivated. But that being said, this is a long journey. Like you mentioned earlier, it's not just like, okay, let me eat better for a couple of weeks and these problems are going to go away. And so now we're playing the long game. And the long game is something that's totally different. And I see that with training as well. And so speaking of the mindset, Cris, you had said a lot of people will say the words like, well, this is hard. I try to coach my clients to not even speak in that way, like to not even use those words. And it's so hard. I catch myself, speaking like that all the time. And so that's why I try to teach my clients to become the observer of their own life and to operate under metacognition. So not just having a thought, but analyzing your thought and asking yourself, why did I think that? And so, for example, in fitness, that might be, oh, I just really don't want to work out today. Oh, I really don't want to work out today. And then that thought kind of starts to spiral. And the more you have that thought, the more you're going to have that thought. And so I try to really, really coach my clients to, if they notice they're having thoughts that don't serve them, stop having those thoughts. And sometimes it can be as easy as that. And I don't think we realize that we have that power. But however we think, whatever language we think in, whatever positivity or negativity we think in, that's going to determine who we are and what actions we take in a daily basis. And so even if you hate working out, if you can get yourself to say, I'm so excited for my workout, I love working out, even if you don't fully believe it, but try to believe it. And then guess what? Over time, you're probably going to actually start enjoying working out. And so it's really interesting how the mind is just, it's so powerful and it's such an important driver on this journey. And I don't even think people realize it at all. And when it comes to accountability, and Katie, you had mentioned earlier about how we hit a plateau, then we fall off or something like that. And the thing that I want so many women to realize is that you are supposed to mess up all of the time. In fact, you're going to, and that's okay. Like I mess up on my fitness journey every week, all the time. But the important thing is that you want to learn from all of those things that happen. And then you want to figure out, well, how can I avoid something like that happening again? And then you game plan, and then you put a strategy into place to avoid that thing happening. And then you have to realize that there are just 1,000 different variations of things that can go wrong at all times that may prevent you from getting your workouts in or the nutrition or whatever it is. But the more you have the life experience of making that quote unquote mistake, then you know how to overcome that specific thing for the next time. But then there's going to be another one that comes along. And so really what I'm saying is that when women hit a roadblock or they, quote unquote, make a mistake, they feel like they failed and thus they're not meant to have this fitness journey or whatever. And they use that as an excuse to fall off completely. But in reality, you're supposed to make mistake after mistake after mistake. It's how you handle those mistakes and how you choose to learn from them and use those as instances to grow rather than hold yourself back.
Yep. It's an opportunity to learn and grow or an excuse to fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's what because failure in my book is when you give up on yourself. And giving up on yourself is when those excuses take precedent that alters the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you'll come around again and, you might work out or you might, do a different acne program, whatever it is. There's a time and place for journeys. And if you weren't ready, again, we don't allow that. Oh, well, a lot of it is like, I was in this acne program and it didn't work. So I'm going to come to you and see if yours works. Well, here's the thing as a coach, I don't sit there and go, oh my gosh, yes, it didn't work for you, girl. I got you. No, it's more of that's a big red flag that says, where was this person's mindset? What support did they give? What information did they have? And what do they need to move forward? Because we often want to fault everything else because what's the adverse reflection is us.
We don't like to fault ourselves for everything. We will give
We
everybody
don't really
else.
love it.
No.
So that's just something also to look at. One thing too, I want to use this as a mindset. You had an HMA in June 2024. You redid it in June 2025. I wish I could show people this HMA.
Cris is like, let me screen share.
Like, you were not feeling well. I can tell you when you were coming in, you were not feeling well. We had aluminum in like excess, barium excess, strontium, calcium, acidity like behaviors.
It looks like a Christmas tree, her original HTMA. Like
nickel was through the roof. Nickel's very much integrated in towards acne too, right? Like there's a lot of different things that were all in there. So I can easily go, okay, yeah, there's things that we can take out. There's tin. Oh yeah, we got this, right? Fast forward, let's look at this from a mindset perspective. Your next HMA still comes back like a lit up Christmas tree. When you first looked at it, how deflated was the initial reaction?
Yeah, absolutely. I knew that I was coming from a rough position, and I think that my brain was kind of blocking out how rough it was, or maybe I was just used to being in that rough position of how I was feeling. But I knew that it was going to be a bit of a journey to get myself out of that hole. And so I was kind of expecting, I knew it was going to be better, but I also knew that it wasn't going to be 100% there. But of course, I'm a perfectionist and I did all the protocols exactly to a T and how they should have been. And so of course, I want to see everything come back perfect. And when it's not, that sucks sometimes.
It does. And that's okay. It's the thing is, and that's when even having one of the things that really irritates me to no end is when people get functional tests and they don't really have explanations, or they get sent a 20-minute video, or they get sent, no, everybody, you do a functional test with us, you are sitting with us, we are having a conversation, we are going through it line by line, we are letting you ask all these questions. Why? Because it's for that exact reason right there, because you will sit in those thoughts. So going from a year later, by the way, I do totally recommend you redo this in March. Like this is one test that I would just progressionally for your minerals to see. Yeah, there's your coaching.
Cris is like, by the way, we'll do one in March.
Well, no, the reason why is because we're seeing massive shifts. Like your aluminum, like grossly came down, still excessively elevated. Your strontium, less than half. Your calcium shell, like there's trauma in there. Like there is visible trauma. I can almost pinpoint it to the year. Do you know what I mean? Like
She can. It's wild.
your magnesium, like by half, and your magnesium was up at 3,100. Everybody, the top end is 98. So, no, you weren't feeling well. You know, when you're saying, oh, hey, my senses are coming back, these types of things, because when we look at that aluminum, that's cognition too. That's the opticals, that's the nerve endings, these types of things. That's the transmission. So, that's why you need to sit with somebody. That's why you need the guidance, and that's why you need the coaching, because in clarity of all of this, like I said, just in a mindset, people look and they're like, oh my gosh, it looks worse. No, let's look at it from the lens of where were you? What have you done to achieve where you are? How do you feel? Let's look at now it's a perspective again, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I do like the progress that you made, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so curious about the calcium shell too, because especially I had mentioned that I've been doing so much somatic work. And I feel like that first year in between the two HTMAs is when I had started that. But really, I actually quit my corporate job about 6 months ago. And I feel like, I don't know. I'm so curious to see my next one, because that is when all of the somatic healing really, really kicked in. And so especially in the last 6 months, my nervous system feels just drastically in a different place. And so I'm really curious about how that calcium shell specifically relates to trauma and the nervous system.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do retest, then we'll just, we'll make sure you get connected with me so that we could dive into that.
Cris is like, I'm going to go send her, like, we're doing HTMA as soon as we get off the call is what we're going to do.
No, we got to give it time. It was just June. But, the thing is things come up and they hide, like from stomach acid, even though it still doesn't look ideal. The thing is it's massively improved, not even just in symptoms, in values. Potentially, do we have the H. pylori in there that could have been masked, right? Because we couldn't get to it with this. So there's a lot in there, right? And the other thing is when people say, hey, I want acne or I want weight loss for you, it's going to be summer bod, right? I want my summer bod. For us, it's like weddings or anything where there's cameras for sure. But these are the things. And when we have those expectations, we set a timeline to be perfect. And I want to ask everybody right now, whose life's perfect?
Nobody.
Because listen, I don't even need to check in.
You're the Instagram influencer who has that picture perfect life in their highlight reel up. That's
right.
Yeah.
Because we're constantly trying to achieve. Your neighbor gets a new car. Oh, I want a new car. Somebody does a renovation to their house. I want a renovation to my house. Somebody's child is behaving in the grocery aisle. I want well-behaving children. Do you know what I mean? Like, we do it. And because weight and acne are aesthetic, you can't hide them. We can hide gas. We can hide bloat as much as we can, right? We can hide all mental illness as much as we can. You can't hide the aesthetics. That's why mindset, and that's why the coaching. And I mean, there's some people that have done the DIY and have done marvelously. And I'd say a large majority do the DIY and say, oh, yeah, I realize I need the coaching.
I think the coaching is one of the biggest game changers for people on a weight loss journey, an acne journey, because it's that accountability where when things get hard, you have someone to say, no, we're doing this. Or when you don't understand what's happening in your body, you have a coach to say, oh, no, this is what's happening. So for me on my end, I'm a nutritionist. I know lots about that. I've been a cheerleader, I did dance, I've worked out my whole life. And I know my brain, if I do not have someone to keep me accountable, I'm not going to do it. That's why I physically go to a reformer Pilates class. But as much as I love reformer, I knew that I needed to have strength training. And I've tried multiple times over the years to learn how to do strength training, watching YouTube videos, using ChatGPT, watching endless Instagram things. I have all of the workout equipment at my house, but guess what? I'll do it for a day and I fall off, literally a day, maybe 2, and I fall off the wagon because I don't know if what I'm doing is right. And I have so many injuries that I don't know if the workouts that I'm doing are correct for my body. Because just like an acne stop, we're like, okay, I know I need to eat these foods and like take these supplements, but are they correct for my body? So this is why when Elizabeth was like, hey, like, would you love to come and be in my program? I was like, yeah, I would, because while I know a lot, I don't know how to apply it to me individually. And that's where that coaching comes in, because she's like, okay, well, based on your health history, you need to be doing these exercises. And I would have never put that together for myself. And also her keeping me accountable, saying, hey, Katie, how did you do the here? Hey, Katie, how did you do over there? And I'm like, oh, crap. Like, I have somebody that's like keeping me in line now. Like, I can't not do these workouts because I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to let my coach down. So I think that the coaching component is so, so important.
Yes. I think it's also about like the reassurance. Like, for example, me going through this healing journey with my gut, it's like there's so many things that pop up that I feel, and having someone to go to and be like, hey, am I supposed to feel this way right now? And you being like, yes. I'm like, oh, okay, everything's good then. But if I were doing that on my own, then that might be, like you said, an indication for me to be like, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel this way, so I'm just not going to do it. And I also think it's so important to have a coach that's gone through what you've gone through. I mean, you know, no hate to any other trainers or anything, but I have seen in the past people try to learn from people who haven't gone through the thing that they're trying to accomplish. And that can just lead to frustration. And I think that was a part of the frustration on my journey and my fitness in the beginning. And then when I found a coach who had gone through pretty much exactly what I had gone through and walked me through it step by step and said, giving me just better expectations of, hey, you're going to feel this. Hey, this is going to happen. Hey, it might feel surprising. And also just giving me the education about, hey, this is the plan, but also this is why we are doing the plan. And this is why I'm making this tweak to the plan. And this is why, giving you the why behind it, because I would feel like I'm not doing my job as a coach if at the end of my program, my clients still needed me forever, right? Ideally, they should be able to have enough education at some point to go off and do it on their own and sustain it. And I think that's something that is frustrating for me about the coaching industry. And it's actually one of the reasons why I quit my corporate job with coaching and went off to do it on my own, because it feels very salesy. It's like, well, let me just hold back a little bit of information so that way you have to come back to me. And that's why I wanted to start my program, because I just had collected so much education and resources and tools over the years in my own healing journey. I was like, I just want to give it all out to other people and help them, because I know how many women I've talked to that have gone through some sort of similar journey, and they're frustrated and they just want to know what they should do, and they're just at the point where they're ready to go in and do it, but they don't know what to do. And so that's why I started my program, is to be able to just give them that exact roadmap and take all of the guesswork out of it, but also educate them about it as well.
And that's what and I know, Cris, you haven't gone through Elizabeth's program. I know Cris is not on her fitness journey right now. Well, a little bit. You've been getting
Yeah, I am.
workouts in.
It's just I don't go because I just, like you're saying, sometimes we need the motivation when we start. Like I hadn't done anything for a decade because of my adrenals. Everything was concentrated around that. So no, it's a little bit more of I go once a week and I do it for fun.
Yes.
Because when it becomes a task, we've lost sight of the reason why we're doing it. So I do it once a week, and like tonight I'll be working my little heart out. I'll be sweating, I'll feel good. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, that's done for a week. No, but I just haven't, because one, I'm also an overthinker. So it's like, what program's good? What support do I have? Like, what motivation am I going to have? Right? That's where we get stuck. So even I get stuck.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so excited to start Elizabeth's program, this Sweet Tone Collective, because I'm a coach, so I know the importance of a coach. I need accountability. I need coaching. I need somebody who can have like that, like bird's eye view and that unbiased opinion to say, hey, you actually need to be doing this. Or, hey, you know what? Really great job. Because I think one thing that we forget as we become adults is that we still need to be told we're doing a good job. Like, just because we're adults doesn't mean we don't need that reassurance and that validation, like, hey, you're doing great, you're making good gains. Yeah, of course it's not as going to be as fast as you want, but you're actually doing really well. And I noticed that in my own coaching is a lot of times women just need to be seen and heard and told, you're doing great, I'm proud of the work that you're doing. And that really helps keep that motivation strong and going. So that's why I'm so excited to start Elizabeth's program, because Elizabeth, as I was going through your content over the weekend, I was actually really impressed. I'm like, girl, look at this. You got this whole mindset section. Cris, guess what she had in there? She had all things about the Bristol stool chart in her intake form.
Because poop's important.
I know.
Because you can work out to your heart's content, but if you can't poop, where do you think all those toxins are going? Completely out the vessel of the pores.
It was in her intake form, and I literally wrote on my intake form, well, look at this. I was so excited.
I actually would probably be embarrassed to do an intake form on fitness right now.
Well, Elizabeth, did I not tell this to you when we spoke the other day? I was like, I am actually really embarrassed filling this intake form out, because she asked so many really great questions, and it made me really reflect on how I've been treating myself. And as we know, Cris, my last year was not phenomenal. I did not treat myself well. I was not in a good headspace. And when I was filling this intake form out about a week ago, I was like, oh man, like I really do need to start treating myself better. And I said, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed about this. And she goes, no, like you don't need to be embarrassed about this. This is why you're getting coached to go and do these things.
It was the same way that I felt coming into your program. I was embarrassed filling it out too. And kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like coaches need coaches too. We all do. Like humans are supposed to be a part of a community, and we're all taking care of each other. And I think that in today's world, we just have this immense pressure of I'm supposed to be perfect in everything I do, and I'm supposed to be able to do it all by myself. And that's just not the case. I mean, I hire a trainer myself. Actually, I hire my boyfriend to be my trainer, and I pay him for it, because I think that that type of coaching and expertise is so valuable. I would never ask someone to enter my program if I wasn't also spending money on my own coach, because I truly believe in coaching that much.
100%. Cris is my nutritionist. I don't pay her. Well, I pay her for the work she does for clients, but the messages I send at 11 p.m. saying, hey, what do we think about this supplement? And she's like,
Yes, it's pro bono.
It is pro bono.
It's not even consignment. There is no exchange. It is pro bono.
I would love to say that I send you black garlic, but I haven't been able to get that black garlic for you lately.
Right? So that's okay.
Right now it's pro bono.
Pro bono.
I'll get you. Don't worry. I'll get you back. Don't worry. I got you. All right, everybody. This was such a great episode. I love how these conversations unfold. And Elizabeth, I'm so thankful that you have been a part of not only the Clear Skin Solution, but giving yourself the time and the space to self-heal and really committing to the journey for yourself, hanging out with us, and also being like, hey, Katie, why don't you come hang out with me for a little while? Why don't you come hang out over here? So if you guys are curious about my little fitness journey I'm going to be doing with Elizabeth, I'm going to be posting on my stories. So don't you worry. You'll get to learn all about that. And if, Elizabeth, people do want to check out your Tone Collective, where can they learn more?
Yeah, so they can find me on Instagram at Elizabeth Fitness. So my last name is Fitzpatrick. So the handle is at Elizabeth FITZ.
It's
AEFF.
It's in the show notes. So yeah, you guys can go ahead there, shoot her a message. You know, if you want to come and check out her program, if you want to learn more about her skin journey, I'm sure she'd be happy to share it with you. And I am so excited for another episode here at Keep It Clear, everybody. As always, if you guys have anything you want us to talk about, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Not Cris, she doesn't answer. DM me any topics you want us to talk about. And if you want to come hang out with us in the Clear Skin Solution, check the show notes. We'd love to have you.